that the companies have to submit to the Ministry of Environment and to other regulatory bodies. We are excited to have him here today, and I'm not going to take any more time. You have his bio in the announcement. He's a certified engineer, ISO certified engineer with many experiences, and please, without further ado, please help me welcome Engineer Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Do we have any non-Arabic speakers? Yes. So, your permission, I will be sometimes trying to explain some of the terminologies in Arabic just to make sure, because they are so scientific that everybody captures the meaning. Environmental impact assessment is the topic of the day. I understand that all of you in your last year and you are preparing for your graduation projects. And with that, you are being the designer, quote unquote, the designer of the project. So from this point on, I will be calling you designers. Okay? And you have a project, you have to defend your project. When you defend your project, you have to defend it for its not only making money and good for economy and making jobs and whatnot, but you have to also defend it for being environmental friendly. Okay? How can you tell that if you don't have a strong ground for it? And the ground for it is the environmental impact assessment, what we call in Arabic دراسة تقييم الآثار البيئية. The environmental impact assessment is what we call multidisciplinary study, meaning you have to do many things under one umbrella called EIA. It's this one of these studies that help the decision makers take the right decision. And what do we mean by decision makers? You have a project. The project you are going to be building in, say, hypothetically, you are going to be building in Said Industrial City or Ras Al Industrial City. You need money to start the project. You go to the bankers. Okay, we call them the lenders. They will be interested in seeing your environmental impact assessment. You build your project, you need to make insurance on your project. The insurers need to see the environmental impact assessment. The shareholders who own the company, they need to see the environmental impact assessment. The industrial city management, where you have your plant going to be built or your unit, they are interested in seeing the environmental impact assessment. The authority, the Ministry of Environment and who not, are interested in seeing this. So the study is not to satisfy a requirement by the Ministry of Environment to have some study. No, it's more than that. It's really much more than that. But above all, we always say you can control what you measure, right? If you don't measure, you don't control. And you are process engineers, right? Yes. And if you don't measure, you can't control. The same with the environment. If I don't measure my associated impact, my activity, products and processes, I will not be able to control. The EIA is really the cornerstone for the environmental management system. In any company where you have a management system for the personnel, for example, they go on leave, they go sick leave, their salaries. If you have, say, 2,000 employees, it's very difficult to memorize everything. So you have to have a system to manage people, right? Similarly, you have to have a system in place to manage the environmental aspects and impacts. Okay? The EIA is the cornerstone for that, because we earlier said I can only control what I can measure or what I measure. The EIA will help me also predict all of these associated impacts. List them and rank them, so I know what of my activities, products or services are giving low impact, medium impact or high impact. Otherwise, I may be directing my energy and resources and money in the wrong direction. Right? Now, let me ask you, when I say impact, environmental impact, what comes to your mind?
Pollution.
Pollution. Good. And pollution come in different ways, right? Air pollution, water pollution, you name it. What else?
Could be a hazard.
Hazards, okay.
Noise.
Noise,
Odor.
odor,
Global warming.
global warming. But see, all the answers I had so far are on negative impacts, right? Are you telling me that your project is not going to have any positive impact? Because if that is the case, and I am the authority, I'm not going to approve this project. So what is your positive impact?
Maybe low carbon emissions, for example.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Maybe
Enhancing the economy.
Advancing the economy.
job opportunities, jobs.
Job opportunities, creating jobs.
Maybe taking carbon monoxide and change it to carbon dioxide.
Okay, so innovative ideas. So it's not all negative, right? It's important that when we think about environmental impact assessment, we don't think only of the
Negative.
empty half of the glass. We have to see the full half of the glass. Otherwise, we are not selling our project. Nobody will accept this project. The environmental impact assessment will cover three main areas. There are four, but three main areas. The very first one is the physical environment, like the topography, the marine, you name it. Okay, geography, bathymetry, oceanography, sediments in the sea, groundwater, surface water. This is called physical environment, something I can see, I can touch, right? And then we have the biological environment, aquatic ecosystems, the flora and fauna inventory, endangered species or rare species, ecologically sensitive areas or habitats, okay, and areas of commercial interest. And then
What's fauna, flora,
the
inventory,
plants and animals.
animals?
Yes. Socio-cultural, like the population distribution in the country, the land use, whether I'm using the land in the right way or not. Like, I give you an example. The industrial city is like a glass of water. It can be filled to a certain level, and then after that, what will happen? It will flood, right? The water will come out. This is called environmental capacity. Okay? So every industrial city has a capacity. When I going to build, for example, a methanol unit in this area, is it going to be within the environmental capacity or not? That is the land use. That is how we decide whether it is really the good location or not. This place.
So where is this data available? Because you have industrial zones in Qatar where it's viable to construct or whatever.
Yes.
Make your plans. So of course when the authorities set up these areas, they must have done the physical and the biological studies, the environment studies. So are these data available somewhere?
Maybe you
Or
have to come up
does
with
the
that.
company come up with it, the one that...
Sometimes it's available and sometimes we have to come up with that part of the EIA. And I will come to something called site characterization study. That's where you cover that. That's where you characterize the location. And when you do that, better that you characterize for multiple locations. So before you say Misaid and you go and you do full energy study in Misaid and then you find that Misaid is not really the right location, better select multiple locations, carry the study and then decide what is the best location for it.
And they actually have to for this project. Yes.
And of course, listing, rating, and putting the impacts in priorities, from the low impact to the high impact, or vice versa. So you know which ones are the ones that you need to spend more energy with. When you are doing your EIA, you have to satisfy some baselines, right? What are these baselines? Laws. When we say laws, the very first thing that comes to the top of the list is what? Is the state of Qatar environmental regulations and standards, Law 30. Okay? This presentation, the tool we will use, and copy of the law are being emailed to Dr. Ahmed by email. She at some point will be sharing that with you. Okay, so you have access to that. The legal requirements from the landlord. If you are going to be building in CIA, Rastafan, Bhutan, or whatever, there's a landlord there. You have to comply with his environmental guidelines. You need to know them. Provide initial characterization of the existing ecological and environmental conditions of the area. We'll come to that with the site characterization study. And assist defining the scope of the environmental field investigation, meaning what do I need to focus on? Maybe where I'm going to be building my unit is already having ozone problem or SO2 problem or maybe particulate problem in the air emission or maybe high COD in the sea or whatever. Okay? What is my project going to be adding there? Is it going to be contributing more? Or is it going to be not contributing at all maybe? Minimize the duration of the field work. The more data you have, the better planning you have in place, the less field work you have to do. And reduce the cost of the field work itself. Okay? Now, in the early days, when you ask somebody about the EIA, okay, and it was in my time, when I was at your age, somebody may say, wait a second, you want environmental study that will cost, I don't know, $1.5 million? What is going to add into the project, really? I don't see it adding any value to the project. I don't know. That mentality have changed 180 degrees nowadays. These studies are helping people like you, the designer, at the early stage, decide the controls they need to add to the design so that it's economically better design. One aspect that comes to my mind is energy. Okay? To decide whether you want to go for fuel gas, liquid fuel, electricity or whatsoever. Whether you want to go with, I don't know, 2-stage turbine or 4-stage turbine or 12-stage turbine. Things like this, you can decide during the design phase with the help of the environmental impact assessment so that your project is better designed. When we are doing EIAs, we always keep in mind local and global environmental issues. Whether my project is going to add more problems globally or more problems locally, or maybe solve some of these problems with global or local. Global problems, you read about them from news, and I'm sure that you have educated yourself enough about them. The global warming, climate change, waste minimization, hazardous and nuclear waste management, the transboundary of waste, which means the immigration of waste from one country to one country. All of these are international problems we face today as we speak. The international community came together and put some international agreements to control these environmental problems, like the Basic Convention for the Transboundary of Waste, like the Kyoto Convention, the Montreal Protocol, you name it. Okay? Those controls are all in place, and Qatar is signatory of all of them. Qatar never said, I will not be signing, or I object, or I will sign at a later date. No, Qatar had signed all of them, which will make your life a little bit more difficult. Okay? Because you now have to satisfy all of these requirements. And that brings another question for you. You earlier said that you will be satisfying the state standards, right? Okay. But when you have a project built in Masayid Industrial City, for example, you have to satisfy also Masayid Industrial City, right? And when Qatar is signatory of some international agreement, you have to satisfy that international agreement, right? So, with these multiple standards, which standard do you follow?
We'll have a range.
I think the government set
The law first.
The government thought of this, and the EPA, I guess.
I think the national law is based on the international standards.
No?
No?
No. I may have the international standard like World Bank asking for a limit of 300. Okay? The state standard asking a limit of 240. And the industrial city asking a limit of 125. So which one do I follow?
The lowest 125.
The most strict one.
The most stringent one, always. Because you have to satisfy the law, right? And each one of these is law. And you need to understand all of these laws. When it comes to local issues, we have ozone is a major problem here in Qatar. But it's factual that this ozone is transboundary. It's coming from other countries to Qatar. Ozone is formed by the chemical reaction in the atmosphere between NOx and VOCs. Okay? The nitrogen oxides and the volatile organic compounds and the sunlight. And it takes time, long time for this to happen. But it is here in Qatar, we know it's here, and we face the problem, so we have to do something about it. Another problem we face in Qatar is the hazardous material and hazardous waste management. We only have one facility in Qatar that deals with the hazardous waste, and it has a capacity. It can only do stabilization, neutralization, encapsulation, some stuff they can do, but they can't do everything. And they don't accept, for example, radioactive waste. We use radioactive sources everywhere, right? X-rays in the hospitals. Even if you are building a facility, you need X-ray machine in the lab, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you need different ionization sources in the lab. And they have lifetime, and then you have to dispose. Is there a facility in Qatar to dispose?
What do you
So
do?
it's a local environmental problem.
So you do
It's one of the
export
local environmental problems.
it?
We end up exporting and paying big time money.
Yeah.
Okay? State of Qatar is committed to the international agreements and regulations and protocols. What we say here is that we ultimately need to satisfy the law 30, but that is not everything. We have to know about other things. Now, I personally don't know about how the faculty is asking you to finish your assessment. Maybe they want to make your life easy and not ask you to go back and study all of the international standards, only satisfy the state of Qatar standard, which is perfectly fine. Okay? But if you are graduated working as a process engineer somewhere and you need to design a unit, you have to educate yourself about these other laws. The easier way is to recruit someone like me who will help you do that. Okay, we have something called site characterization study, and we have something called the environmental impact assessment, and they go hand by hand. It all starts with the review of available data with the site characterization. At the same time, you start identifying your resources, your potential sources of impact. evaluate the data for the site characterization. And at the same time, here you have to start characterizing and quantifying the impact. Now that you have evaluated the data and you know your impact, you start quantifying your impact. You conduct field measurement in case you need more data, additional data. Now you have enough data in place to start assessing your impacts. You start here assessing your impacts, and with that you can build what we call this site baseline environmental conditions. The assessment and the characterization will end up helping you start building what we call corrective and preventive actions. It will bounce back to you, the designers, to modify your design. If the environmental impact assessment is telling that your emission from the boiler, for example, is high, you have to go back and redo something about the boiler. If it says the amount of drains coming back from the X unit or Y unit is not acceptable, you have to go back and do something about the quality of the drains. If it says the noise coming from the X unit or Y unit is not acceptable, you have to go back and try to add silencers or something to your design to fine-tune it. Sorry, back here. The word baseline is very important. When we do environmental impact assessment, do we do it one time or do we do it multiple times? We do it with certain frequency, in some cases 5 years, 10 years. But when you are saying I am impacting positive, negative, or different, okay? To what basis are you making that decision? What is your baseline?
Baseline is by the government and department.
The baseline is the very first study you did in your site characterization. Remember, say for example, I'm going to build my industry in a virgin area. Nobody touched that area before. I need to understand this area. I build my plan. Every time I carry my EIA, I compare it back to what was the conditions, environmental conditions before I started anything. If I am building my plan in, say, the industrial city, which is full of industries today, I still need to understand, characterize the site, build my baseline. So down the line, when I'm evaluating my impacts, I can tell based to the baseline whether I'm doing good, bad, or different, right? So we need tons of data. We need data for the environmental regulations, noise, marine, water quality, groundwater, physical biological environment, meteorology, ambient air, marine sediments, waste streams, soil and subsurface geology, socio-cultural topics, and flora, fauna, and habitat. Where do I get all of that information from? I have to work with many departments in the country. I have to go to like Department of Fisheries, Marine Protection Section in the Ministry of Environment, the Industrial City, the Environmental Science Center in Qatar University, you name it. The amount of data I'm collecting is going to be a huge amount of data. Okay? But without that data, my study is not really comprehensive enough. I may not be really covering every aspect I need to be covering. Nowadays, with these tons of data, our life is much easier. We live in what we call the computer era, right? Everything is computerized. Even environmental modeling is computerized. I don't have to run all of these equations to see how the bloom is generated from the stack, how it's moving, dispersing, where it's hitting the ground. The computer will do all of that for me. If I have a spill from a big tank, okay, of hydrocarbon, and it's seepaging down the ground to the groundwater, how big is going to be the spill, how the groundwater is going to be impacted, all of that the computers are doing it for me today. So the environmental modeling can be done for the flaring and stack emissions, for the thermal water, like seawater we use for cooling, and the brine water, all of that dimming water discharge, oil and chemical impact from the spill, whether it is onshore spill or offshore spill, the noise modeling is there, all of that is there. The computers can help me with. Why do I run computer modeling?
Forecast what will happen.
Forecasting what will happen.
And to make sure that I'm following the standard.
What will happen? Okay. Quantity,
Quantity.
extent, how far,
Can you go with?
okay, what else?
Actions being done.
Yeah. Actions will come later. Modeling will give me results, right? You do modeling.
What is your threshold for
Yeah,
your limitations? Yeah.
Constant.
okay. So the modeling help me in the decision making, help me go back to say whether my controls are good enough or not. That's ultimately the outcome of the modeling.
What if we see after maintaining all those standards and regulations, our production is not profitable?
No, that's a very good question actually. You always have to hold the stake from the middle. There are cases where Qatar, the government, did say for some projects that although they are profitable, they are not environmentally friendly and they are not acceptable. And there are cases where to make it environmentally acceptable, the cost went sky high and then it was not quote-unquote economically feasible. So they dropped the project. Okay? But it's very rare that you run an EIA for a project, modify the project, and still find it not economically feasible. And I'll come to that shortly. But maybe I can answer you now. Say, for example, you designed your boiler to work on electricity. Okay? How much you have to pay every month for electricity? And you can imagine for making steam, how much energy you need. We are talking about megawatts. Okay? Many megawatts per day. Okay? Versus building it with a fuel gas. Okay? So, fuel gas is cheaper, but the boiler itself, working with the fuel gas, is more expensive. So the decision you have to make, whether you go in your capital, Ras Al Mal, whether you go with your capital and buy the more expensive one, which will pay itself back in years to come, or not. Okay? Now, say for example you select the fuel gas, whether you go with the dirty fuel or with the clean fuel. And clean fuel is more expensive. Okay? Maybe I can go with the dirty fuel and add some controls in my design to still emit what is acceptable. Maybe not. Maybe I have to pay more. Okay, so all of that you take it into consideration. And then answer back at the end whether your design is going to be profitable or not profitable. There are two key words here. One is called aspect, one is called impact. Aspect is the element of the organization: activity, product, and service. These are three key words again: activity, product, and service that interact with the environment. The impact is the change to the environment, the result. Okay? being the extent of the impact, F being the cost of the impact, and G being the availability of the control. For each one of these criteria, we have different levels: high, medium, low. For the quantity, high is having a different score, medium is having a different score, and so on. Legislation, you could be in compliance, non-compliance, and sometimes partially non-compliance. Frequency, it could be continuous, once a day happening activity. More than that, less than that, the frequency you have to be rating. Duration, if it happened, it's going to be for so much time. It's going to be for maybe continuous, okay? Maybe once a day, maybe less frequency. Sorry, that was the